My friends, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to jump in here and make a quick technical update, well, as quick as I do anyway, over GME and AMC. Wild day in the meme stock land with Roaring Kitty coming back, tweeting for the first time in basically 3 years. GME running like 90% today, AMC running 100% today. I put out on Twitter, which if you haven't done so already, please follow me on Twitter, Colin_Gladman. It's the only account I have. I won't ask you about crypto trading, any of that kind of garbage. Also, too, like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if the video is helpful to you. I put out on Twitter that as long as these things are running / squeezing / sneezing, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. I'll put out information that I believe is important when it comes to technicals. So if you want to see stuff that's happening in real time, you're going to have to follow me on Twitter. Zero promise of how often I'm going to do these YouTube technical update videos. We're going to talk about the bullish case. We're going to talk about the bearish case and everything in between. At the end of the day, guys, I just want you to have some type of plan. I do not give a shit what your plan is so long as you have one, okay? So at the end of the day, do what's right for yourself, your family, and your portfolio. I will be very right sometimes and I will be very wrong sometimes. But at the end of the day, I'm just a dude on the internet trying to help you. I feel like I have a very good grasp on technicals on the market, things of that nature, but I absolutely can be wrong. So do what's best for you. And yeah, let's jump into the video. So one of the things I always talk about with my Discord is even if you're looking at a daily chart or a weekly chart, if you were going to treat it like a 15-minute chart, how would you trade it? So obviously this is GameStop's weekly chart here. Obviously this was the big squeeze back in 2021. Then it's been in this long corrective movement. And then once again, Roaring Kitty comes out, starts tweeting, talking, all that good stuff, and GME gets a huge pop out of this. Now, it's no surprise. So people who are like, oh, you can't, use technicals on a squeeze or anything like that. Well, number one, don't waste your time on this video. But number two, you absolutely can. The reality is GME basically made about a 50% retracement here. So not quite. 50% would have been like 8.75. But pretty much from this move, made a 50% retracement. Plus, if you'll see here, it came back and the touches from basically the 07 high, the 2013 high, and then look, it bounced pretty much. So this was the big squeeze and the buy button was taken away, and then where it collapsed, came back down, touched that area again, found support, and is now moving out. So the big things that we want to look for going forward are kind of what are those little intermediate levels, if you will, that we need to cover. I told my Discord 33 to 35 is going to be a big level to get over. It starts getting over that. I think 50 can happen relatively quickly. I'm sorry, let me back out here. Let me let's walk you through why. So just like the Fibonacci retracement tool that I use from the top to the bottom, I'm going to use it, but this time I'm going to draw it from the top down. So you start at your high, and then you go to your low, which is back over here. And that 0.5 retracement is going to be right at that 34, 35 level that I talked about. It starts basing and moving over that. I don't think there's any question we're moving up here to the 0.618, 0.65, right around that 47 to 50 level. That's going to be a big level, okay? That's going to be the tops from over here in March of 2022 and August of 2022. Both times that is where GME rejected, and then you saw massive push downs after that. What you want to see is, the best case scenario is going to be a shot over, start building a base up in here, and then you're going to start moving up again. There's also going to be a lot of resistance. I mean, you start getting up towards 70, back up here towards these peaks from March of 2021 and June of 2021. You're going to see some resistance. I don't care what anybody says. there are going to be some people who sell out and take profits along the way. So anybody that got in down here in this $10 to $18 area, or even anybody that's been up here, the reality is anybody from December of 2022 has been bag holding this thing the entire time. And when I say that, I'm not trying to be derogatory. I'm just speaking reality here. So you're just now starting to get people that literally since August of 2022 are just now starting to see some green territory. Anybody who's been buying in right here. So there's going to be some people who are just fed up and like, okay, you know what? I got my money back. I'm done. So as this thing moves, don't be surprised with profit takers along the way. Is there going to be FOMO? And yes, I mean, I'll be honest, today was the first time I truly felt FOMO in a long time. Now, I didn't trade anything other than a couple of covered calls, but the reality is here is you want to see this thing start basing above what has been very strong resistance, okay? If that happens, the FOMO keeps coming in. I also put this out on Twitter. Don't worry about the Dave Portnoys of the world or anything like that. I've already seen a bunch of like, oh, you're just gonna paper hand again, and like people whining, crying, complaining, and bitching about stuff. Like you want as many eyeballs on this thing as possible. The more eyeballs, the more FOMO. That's what happened back here. So you want another big sneeze, squeeze, whatever you want to call it. You want something like this. You want eyeballs on this thing. So having said that, the first big level you really want to see clearing and basing over is going to be right around 35. You get that. I don't think there's any question we're going to be moving up towards that $50 area. Now, past that, obviously, then we would start be looking at the 786, and we'd be looking at the 1 extension. You've also got to remember too, when it comes to these meme stocks, things can just happen, right? Whether it's dilution, obviously I'm talking more about AMC there, but whether it's any type of news, offerings, things of that nature, that can put a halt on things. Also, we've got both CPI and PPI prints. PPI is tomorrow. CPI is going to be on Wednesday, an hour before open. Those are going to have huge ramifications to the overall market. I'm not saying that these things can't keep squeezing or moving, even if the overall market is pulling back or we get bad data, but it's certainly going to help these if the overall market is surging and pushing with it. So short-term price targets, which is what this video is about right now, that's what I'm going to be looking for. You want to build a base over that 35, and then from there, then you can start seeing upwards towards that 50. Now, for big-time price targets, if this thing really starts squeezing, sneezing, once again, whatever you want to call it, the reality is from here, you start doing an extension like this, and that one move is all the way up towards like 1910. Now, obviously, that would take a lot going on, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Now, like I said, this is a weekly chart. Things would take some time, but when these moves happen, the reality is from a weekly, so from the lows towards GameStop's peak, it was essentially almost a year, 300 days, 43 bars or 43 weeks, okay? So, once again, just kind of going apples to apples here, 43 bars would be February of 2025. So, could take some time to reach any type of price targets like that. And let me go back to it. That's only if you see this type of squeeze again. The reality is I personally believe there were lots of people who were caught completely off sides. So, and I'm not going to get into the argument of, well, did shorts ever even cover? They took the buy button away, they cheated. And I have said a million times that is the craziest thing still to this day that I've ever seen. GameStop got halted, like 7 times today? So don't be surprised when the other side's going to try to cheat you here, okay? So if you're signing up for the meme stock ride, then you're signing up for volatility and craziness, and you just got to be smart about that. It's like signing up for the military and going, well, when they sent me to war, I didn't know they were going to use bullets, right? You're signing up for crazy, so expect crazy. There's going to be ups, downs, halts, red weeks, all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, before I jump into AMC, Short-term price targets, you really want to see that base over 35, then you can easily start, and you know what I mean when I say easily, then price can start moving towards that 50 once that 35 has really been shown as solid support. If we get bad news tomorrow and things start dropping, then what you want to see is you really want to see this gap up defended at all costs. So 25 needs to be your level of support. So long as bulls continue to defend this gap up right here, I like it for continuation. If we get a crazy pullback, if this is kind of like move one up in a new impulsive move, that's kind of like the impulsive waves of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, assuming that this is the top of wave one. Now, I don't necessarily think that it will be. I think there's going to be more to it. I think we could actually move up towards that $50 price target. Hold on, I'm just kind of checking to see what they're doing in after hours right now. I mean, yeah, GME is already up at 40 in after hours, so it's already kind of making new highs. So don't be surprised though. Let's just kind of talk hypotheticals. If we do move up to 50, and let's say that's the top of kind of the initial move one, then I would expect some type of move back towards 22 to 18 before then getting that next big explosive move topside. Whether it's through halts, whether it's through bad data tomorrow morning. I mean, it really just doesn't matter, guys, right? If once a pullback starts, it's going to start. I mean, it's not going to, even when all this was squeezing back over in here, there was still lots of red days and pullbacks along the way. So it's not just going to always go straight up. Now, I do think there's a lot of fuel in the tank here. So the pullback will really determine on how far do we move up before we actually start to catch a pullback. But assuming 50, then I would expect some type of pullback that's going to come down to the low 20s, maybe even 18 again. And you think about how depressed that would make a whole lot of people. Not saying it will. That's just a hypothetical. And so you would get a move. If you get something like this, then you would get a move that pulls back to around here. Then you would start your next big leg up. There's going to be a pullback at some point in time. So once again, if you're riding shares, then cool, whatever. If you're in any type of a buying option situation, I would be really smart. Same thing I always tell my Discord. You can always reposition. You cannot always get your money back. So, but like I said, right here around this 48. I think it could be anywhere between about 47 to 50. Well, let's draw that one more time. Yeah, so anywhere between that $46.50 to $50, and 50 is just a big key psychological number, right? That's going to be like 200 previously. There's going to be a lot of people who are starting to get their head above water, and like I already said, that is going to induce profit taking. There's going to be people who just don't care about meme stocks whatsoever. Like I said, this type of volatility attracts everybody. It attracts your basic people, your swing traders, your day traders, and that's a good thing, right? More eyeballs the better. So if we get some type of big solid move up here towards 50, then I'm kind of thinking it'll be interesting. We'll watch and see what happens at 50. Like I said, it's going to be volatile. A lot of moves are going to happen after hours, so you got to be smart. But I'm anticipating some type of rejection at 50, and then we would be looking for some pullback targets. Like I said, if the market is super ugly tomorrow, bad PPI data, and things start to drop, then at the end of the day, what we want to see is we really just want to see this big support resistance flip. So let me get rid of this again. And that's going to be all right in here. So again, this is a weekly chart. So this was a lot of resistance. Once again, this was all weekly candles here, right? So this was all a lot of resistance. So your worst case scenario, I'll draw it out for you guys. Your worst case scenario is you come back in here and then you kind of start curling up and doing one of these moves again. So long as essentially that 25 to 30 holds as support, I like it. People always say, well, gaps got to be filled, things of that nature. And eventually a lot of them do. However, this is a big massive breakaway gap. Okay, this is a gap that occurred because there's tons of FOMO coming in, there's tons of volume coming in. If this was just like some random gap up, then yeah, I would be more nervous about the actual gap. You want to see this gap acting as support though. So yes, a lot of gaps do get filled. However, large breakaway gaps, and think about the compression that went on in here, guys, right? The longer the compression is, the bigger the gap up, the bigger the breakaway, the easier things can move at that point in time. So this is essentially 3 years of compression, and now you're starting to get that big move topside. Very good thing. The fact that it's a huge breakaway gap out of this, another good thing. So long as this 25 is holding as support, and people, this is where I'll get people on Twitter going, if it gets 24.98, they're gonna be like, oh no, it's breaking through 25. As long as you don't start getting a bunch of daily closes below that level, I think you're gonna be fine. Okay, you don't want to start getting closes down here, because then that move can fade. And even if it fades all the way back here to retest and then starts to go, that's okay too, and I would consider that a very normal stock movement. But the most bullish thing that you can see hanging out in here, or you just keep pounding sand, if you will, up towards 50. But up there around 50, that's definitely where I would throw up some red flags for this week, is being cautious. All right, that's kind of what I'm looking for on GME. For AMC, I tweeted out a whole thread talking about, I think a move to 4 to 5 is the most likely thing. And then post earnings, this is how sick the market is, right? And then post earnings, you're pretty much getting the exact same type of move, right? So post earnings, you get that move out, retest, rejection, and then of course GME starts to blast off, AMC starts to blast off with it. So just, hey, it's going to do the same, and we're going to move all the way down, and just nope. And I can't say it enough. That's the good part about having something like a roaring kitty on your side. So the first big level to look for is staying in basin above that 5. I said I thought the biggest move that we might get out of this is 530, and it actually hit a little bit higher today, hit 588. Where that price target came from is essentially just right here, using the Fibonacci extension tool. So that 618 move. So that 618 move is kind of a big outsized move right here. And like I said, it shot through it, but then it closed below it. So I'm still... Now the reality is, once again, with FOMO, GME already hitting like 40. Let's see what AMC's up to in after hours. I know I saw 6 at one point. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't trade all the time on Robinhood after hours, but it's already up at 642. So now we're looking at some real outsized moves up in here. Now the 2.618 is all the way up here at 8. This area of consolidation is going to make a whole lot of sense. So same analysis from GME. Let's use our fib tool. So this 618 right here, between that 627 and the 660, this is going to be that golden pocket, and you can see how much, and these are daily candles, guys, but you can see how much support, once it broke through, then it acted as resistance, then had the energy to move down. So kind of the same thing we're going to be looking for here on AMC. It starts basing and holding up here in these 6s. I don't think there's any question you can push up and start testing that $10 area. Now, $10.42 is going to be a big level. Let me go out here to the weekly. I would be surprised with just a breakthrough right off of that, because these are going to be all those pre-COVID low areas, right? So this is where everybody pre-COVID was getting in. So certainly a move up there before you get your rejection, and then I think you could get a strong pullback at that point in time if you get up to the 10. What I was hoping for, and it's still very much a possibility, just kind of walk you guys through this, is kind of setting up an inverse head and shoulder look. Let me delete this out so not overly confusing. So what an inverse head and shoulder is I mean, it's a head and shoulder. It's just inverse, right? So what I was looking for here was a potential move. When I said that move to 4 to 5 made a lot of sense, to come up here, then kind of come back down here, break out, and start to move out like this. Now, obviously, with with the Roaring Kitty coming back, we might have to throw that out the window. It just things like this just make it move faster. That's all there is to it. And the reality is everybody starts regaining ground on their position faster. Nobody's going to complain about that. Now, I will say this: rocket ship's topside. Once the moves peak out, it can also mean a big, ugly move downside as well. Now, what would be very bullish is, let's say CPI, PPI data comes out ugly, market sells off, this causes an AMC sell-off. So long as you keep holding up here in this sort of $4 range, even as low as like $3.50 would still validate this setup. Any type of pullbacks you get, guys, you just want to look for really low volume, okay? Same thing, just like with AMC, there's going to be shakeout moments and moves and halts and all that kind of stuff. So you got to be patient. If you got shares and you just want to ride it out, cool. If you're a swing trader, a day trader, an option trader, you got to be smart. Once again, you can always reposition. So if we look at this the same way, let's go back to our fib. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that, I still think that anywhere between 6 to 8 is going to be tough. I really do. But once again, a overshot to here and then start building out in here, then you can start moving back up. So you just want to look for those support resistance flips along the way. So clearly right over here, about 650 was a lot of support. And I think that's what I just said it was chilling at in after hours. So 642. So if you do, these things gap up way above that, they start gapping up towards, 8 or so. That's a very good sign to push and test those COVID lows. If it's real crazy and you do get above those COVID lows, then you absolutely want this to be shown as support from here on out. So if you do get back above 10, you absolutely want to hold that as support. Now, the big thing you do have to watch out for with AMC is potential dilution news. Now, dilution on something like this is obviously going to be very bad short term. It's going to drop the share price a lot. However, if you want to see AMC succeed in the future as a company, them being able to raise a bunch of cash out of this move, whether it's paying down debt, just as Adam Aron talks about, having tons of cash in the bank, so long as they use it wisely, then that can help them certainly down the road. There's no doubt about it that GME fundamentally, in my opinion, this will get some comments, but GME by far and away fundamentally is a much better company. Now, AMC has the opportunity, if they can pay down debt, to be fundamentally sound, but there's no doubt about it that their $4.5 or $5 billion or whatever debt that they have hanging around their neck, however you want to look at it, is a problem. So if you shoot to 10, be careful. Definitely potential dilution news could be coming out at that point in time. But the reality is so here's, obviously where, reverse splits happen. Then, AMC, once it starts getting back up towards the 34 area, that's going to be some, because that was a long-term support. So that I would look at that as kind of the way I'd be looking at, 50 on GME. If we do, let's do this. I haven't even done this yet. So yeah, up in here around that 10, that's going to be that 0.5 retracement. And you can clearly see here that from the bottom, started from the bottom, now we're here. But that 0.5 was exactly where it was holding as support, then flipped resistance, and then you saw the big push down. So, anywhere between that, 9 to 11, that potentially could be tough. Now that could be where maybe it builds out like this. That would be overall bullish. But certainly once you get above those COVID lows, you want to see them start holding at that point in time. So for short-term price action, I said I'm looking for a 33 to 35 over for GME. That can easily take us towards that 50 level. And then on AMC, you really want to see it above that 650 level. Really, let's just call it 7, right? Let's just call it 7 to be safe. But over 7, that can take you to 8. You start getting over 8, that's going to lead you to 10. Relatively easy, in my opinion. And same thing, be careful about news halts, all that kind of stuff. If AMC does start to falter, it does not have the gap up the way that GME does, okay? So we're going to have to view this just a little bit differently. If AMC does pull back, I said that 350 area, you really want to see that start to hold. And that makes sense. Right here, this low is pretty much the 0.5 exactly. So call it, well, don't call it. It is 374 according to the measurement that I have right up in here. So I'd be willing to go down as low as a 350 touch, but you certainly would want to see it start to pick up steam at that point in time. You want those bounces to be aggressive if you see any type of downside. So overall, that's going to be what I'm looking for. Still a potential inverse head and shoulder building out here, but things get crazy and squeezing. And I mean, this thing can go to 10 relatively easy. If you do get to 10, kind of like I was talking about with GME, then you could, then 4 to 5 would be the pullback area. And like I said, it's all about that psychological aspect of it. Everybody want this, moving, and then it's the kind of the return to norm, and then that would start its big impulsive move 3 up. And if, just like with GME, if you did, let's say get to 10, and then you pulled back towards around that 4 area, then you'd be looking at somewhere around potentially 45 is what it could go to. And I mean, look how well that lines up, right? That lines up right here. Like I said, would take some time, just like with GME. So there's absolutely going to be shakeouts along the way. Then I would expect some type of lighter pullback and then further continuation. So I hope this video was helpful to you. It's a little bit of what I'm looking for from a more macro standpoint, and then also to some short-term price targets. So we'll see how it goes, and I'll put out a tweet with the exact levels that I'm going to be looking for going into tomorrow. Much love. Hope this video was helpful to you. Once again, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter, Colin_Gladman. And at the end of the day, do what's best for yourself, your family, and your portfolio. Much love, my friends. I'll catch you later.